Hello, welcome to episode 16 of the Intern's Oddities from around the world. Today, we'll be continuing our weird internet mysteries with the story of Cicada 3301. So, Cicada 3301 started off as an image. They simply posted an image onto a 4chan message board, and they said that there was a code hidden in there, and they wanted people to solve it. And it's a bit strange. So they had to open the image, and apparently, when you open an image in a text editor, there's a lot of computer code type stuff. And it's going to be encrypted a lot of times and just look like a bunch of gobbledygook and mumbo jumbo. You're not really going to be able to read it. But they were able to open the image in the text editor, and at the bottom, underneath all the other encrypted symbols and everything else, they found a message that led them to another puzzle, and another puzzle, and another puzzle, and so on and so forth. We'll get to that in a minute. So it led to them to the next puzzle, and it turned out to be a really long cryptography game. Now, it was getting really weird, and people were wondering who was putting all these strange puzzles out, and what's the point of all this? You know, what's going on? And some people thought it might be a recruitment drive for a federal agency of some sort, CIA, FBI, something like that. And they were worried that, it might be a government agency. And eventually they got to a point where Cicada 3301, one of the results sent them to the dark web through the Tor browser to one of those websites, one of the dark websites, in the deep web, as they say. You need a special browser just to access this part of the internet. We're not getting into that on here. But anyways, so people started trying to figure out these codes and what was going on and everything, and it kept getting more and more difficult and more strange. Eventually it got to a point where they led them to a book. And when they found this book, it ended up being 59 pages long. Although, here's the problem. Every single page was encrypted with nanograms, cryptography, stenography, all sorts of stuff. Like, uh, I think one was called stenography, which is like hiding an image or text within another image. It got crazy. And so they couldn't figure out what was going on. And eventually, Cicada was like Cicada 3301. They found out that people were sharing information and helping each other because these were very difficult puzzles and they didn't really know how to, solve. A lot of people didn't know how to solve them on their own, so they were asking for help and collaborating with other people and sharing information. And eventually, Cicada 3301 got to a point where they found out and they warned people. They were like, "Hey, we don't want you sharing information with each other. We want you to do this on your own." And they said that anyone caught sharing information would be banned, and they would not be allowed to participate in the games anymore. And even if they solved the puzzles, it was irrelevant because they had shown that they could not be trusted and they could not follow simple instructions. So, how did they know who was cheating and who was not, you might wonder? Well, that's where the website comes in. They made their own little website and, on the deep web, and they made their own little access, and everyone who went to the website to get the next, puzzle, they sent them a code and they told them that when they figured out their code, they had to mm, what's the word? Amend the code that they got to the website so that way every single user had their own unique ID while they were solving their puzzles on the website. And now that's how they found out who was sharing information with each other. Now, they made you create your own email on the deep web in order to get your code here. And that was how they were able to tell everyone apart and, get all the individuals together. Now, eventually, after all this, I mentioned a book a minute ago. Now, this book was encrypted. All 59 pages were encrypted. So people started working on, the puzzles, and they started decrypting the pages. And, Cicada 3301, they kind of disappeared. Nobody really knows what happened to them. So they were wondering about that, and they kind of disappeared. And some people think that once the book is entirely decrypted and they figure out all the pages and what the book is all about, some people think Cicada 3301 might return. But a lot of people also believe that Cicada 3301 found who they were looking for because they posted it and they were like, hey, we are looking for, some sort of coder or, chosen one, however you want to think about it. And they were like, hey, we need someone to help us, write some computer programming. And there's another theory outside of the government, recruiting agency theory or Illuminati or whatever. There's another theory that it was just some random internet firm looking for people to help them write new coding for new programs and stuff. But they wanted to be unique and interesting with it, and they felt that this was a good way to find people who were skilled enough to write code and programming while also being trustworthy enough to follow simple instructions. So eventually they said they found who they were looking for, but the book is still encrypted. So maybe we'll figure that out someday. We've decoded a few pages, but I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever decode the whole thing. And I'd be curious to see what happens when we do, if we do. But, the problem with this whole Cicada 3301 experiment, some people think it might have even just been a weird social experiment. But whatever the goal of 3301 was, they claimed to have found who they were looking for, and they kind of disappeared. But the big problem that a lot of people see about this, and they've seen this in CIA recruitment drives and other areas as well, is the people who can do all these codes and crack all this stuff and, nonograms and all this, the people who know how to do all this stuff, they're not interested in working for the government. A lot of them are not interested in that. They want no part of that. They've even had CIA programs where they would, send out puzzles and offer jobs to people who were able to solve the puzzles. But the problem was the people who were able to solve these puzzles were not interested in writing programs or working for someone else. They were only interested in solving the puzzles. And once the puzzle was solved, their interest waned. So that is the story of Cicada 3301. There's still a lot of mystery around it, but for the most part, I personally believe that I like the stories about it being a recruitment drive for some sort of agency, and they just wanted to find someone who could help them, crack codes, or maybe it was some sort of private company trying to, you know, spread the word of, like internet privacy and security and stuff like that. I kind of like those ideas as my favorites because they seem to be reasonable and logical conclusions to me, but there is no definitive answer on exactly what Cicada 3301 is or was, and if it's even still active or not. There has not been activity in a few years, in some years, but we still have not decrypted the entire book, and some people believe that Cicada 3301 will reactivate once the book has been decoded. So, there's just a little brief overview of Cicada 3301. Thank you for coming to hang out with me today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Trying to get back to more of that short form content, but not too short. Like, we're not trying to go TikTok videos, okay? I'm not trying to go that short. Not doing like 30-second videos. I think 10 to 15 minutes is a good time range. So we're gonna go ahead and end it here. Thank you for coming to hang out, and I hope to see you next time on the Intern's Oddities from around the world.